Welcome to the City Council meeting for Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. Mrs. Hilbrick, will you please read roll? Call roll.
Yes, sir. Councilman De La Garza?
I'm present.
Councilman Crocker?
Here.
Councilwoman Scott? Mayor Pro Tem Young?
Here.
Here.
Councilman Lofgren?
Here.
Mayor Bucknight?
Here.
And did I say you're Mr. Crocker? Did I didn't skip you, did I?
You did.
I'm sorry, Councilman Crocker. And Ms. Solis will not be joining us this evening.
Okay, thank you. If everyone will please rise for the pledges, followed by a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Garza. Do you have any announcements and/or reminders for us tonight?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I sure do. I have quite a few, so bear with me. But as an announcement, we want to remind the public that we will be celebrating our 200th anniversary next year, and residents are invited to celebrate our history by sharing their memories of Victoria. The city will display residents' memorabilia at City Hall throughout 2024 and film Victoria Stories, a series of oral histories about Victoria. To contribute an item or share a story, please visit victoriatx200.com. On behalf of UBO, we want to convey to the public, and you'll hear more about this under City Manager's report, that we are preparing to provide maintenance for approximately 1,700 residential water meters between fall 2023 and summer 2024, and you'll hear more about that under City Manager's report. On behalf of Environmental Services, we want to remind the public that we do have Phase 2 of the Queen City Neighborhood Cleanup on Saturday, October 21st from 9 to 11 a.m. Area residents can request assistance by calling Environmental Services at 361-485-3230. Volunteers can sign up at the Keep Victoria Beautiful website at victoriatx.gov/KVB. On behalf of the Parks Department, as you may know, the Parks Department organizes the Christmas Parade of Lights downtown, and registration is now open for that. To sign up for the parade or register as a food or merchandise vendor, please visit victoriatx.gov/registration. Space is limited and the deadline to register is November 1st. On behalf of the Communications Department, we want to remind the public that we continue to accept applications for our 2024 Citizens Academy. Residents are encouraged to apply as soon as possible at victoriatx.gov/Citizens Academy, as that deadline is also approaching, which is November 1st. On behalf of Municipal Court and in honor of Municipal Court Week, the court will be hosting a Java with the Judge event on Monday, November 6th from 7:30 to 9 a.m. in the City Hall courtyard. And additionally, Municipal Court will be hosting a free community resource fair for the public on Wednesday, November 8th from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. at the Victoria Community Center. Organizations interested in attending the resource fair are encouraged to sign up at victoriatx.gov/resource fair by November 3rd. And if it's okay with you, Mayor, I can transition to recognitions.
Sure.
Because there is one that is not listed on the agenda that I want to start off with, which is recognizing the members of the Victoria Fire Department that recently teamed up with VISD and the National Fire Protection Association, which is the official sponsor of Fire Prevention Week for more than 100 years, to promote this year's Fire Prevention Week campaign. Cooking safety starts with you, paying attention to fire prevention. As soon as they received this year's campaign slogan, members of the Victoria Fire Department began planning this year's show, Recipe for Safety. And you're beginning to get a sense of how awesome it was by the picture that's up on the screen. The men and women of the department came up with the Mario Brothers theme and began writing the script, preparing all props, and putting the band back together. The show started on Tuesday, October 10th, and wrapped up on Friday, October 13th. And thanks to the partnership with VISD, over 4,000 Victoria students attended this fun and educational show. And as you can tell, it was a blast. I know some team members had a chance to go and participate, and we literally had members of the fire department that wrote lyrics, sang, played, acted. It was quite the blast. So I'm going to list them out by name real quick because I do think they deserve the recognition for the hard work that they put into the production. On the cast, you had Justin Tunez, Nick Chapa, Brandy Davis, Dana Woodward, Andrew Vadrine, and Derek Montez. I won't go through the characters because that'll take a while, but the employees are what matters. On the band side, you had Madeline Bishop, Gerald Pelkey, Louis Bayer, Connor O'Neill, and Brant Dunavant. And the crew, you had Chris Thompson, Chance Bedwell, Trevor Montgomery, Frank Naranjo, Ricardo Perez, Pamela Yanta, Michaela Bedwell, John Sterry, Maria Perez, Anthony Martinez, Jeff Cowan, Madeline Bishop. And we also had the sheriff's office provide security. And the team did an excellent job. Again, they made up the cast, the band, and just the crew that involved being audio, lighting, visual specialists, stage operators, et cetera. I know we've always known that our fire department is made up of some awesome folks that do more than just fight fires and save lives. And this is an example of that. And so I think they deserve a big round of applause. I know they're not all here tonight, but in general, I think they're worthy of that. So please help me. That's all I got on my side, Mayor.
Okay, great. We have some proclamations followed by Distinguished Citizens Award recognition. So Ms. Hilbrick, if you'll help.
Whereas pharmacists are experts in the successful use of today's complex medications, and whereas patients in hospitals and outpatient clinics receive better care when pharmacists are directly involved in medication management decisions, and whereas pharmacists' direct involvement in patient care helps reduce unnecessary costs and burden on the health system, and whereas the pharmacists and pharmacy technicians practicing in the acute and ambulatory care and the retail pharmacy setting of Victoria, Texas contribute to the health and well-being of our citizens, and whereas the American Society of Health System Pharmacists and the Texas Pharmacy Association have declared October 15th through 21st, 2023 as Pharmacy Week. Now therefore, I, Jeff Balknight, Mayor of the City of Victoria, Texas, do officially declare October 15th through 21st, 2023 as National Pharmacy Week in Victoria, Texas, and urge all citizens to acknowledge the valuable services of the pharmacists and pharmacy technicians who work in inpatient, outpatient, retail, home care, and long-term care settings, and all they do to help patients make the best use of their medications.
I'm Ricky Lentz, and this is going to be the start of my 48th year as a registered pharmacist here in Texas. And I love pharmacy. It's my life. That's all I do, and it's been a great life. And I appreciate Mayor Balknight signing a proclamation recognizing National Pharmacy Week, October 15th through October 21st.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lentz.
Item B2B is the Friends of the Library proclamation. Whereas the Friends of the Victoria Public Library provides funding and support of the programs and services and enhance the efforts of our Victoria Public Library to bring people, information, and ideas together to enrich the lives and build community. And whereas the work of the Friends of the Library highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is an anchor of the community, providing opportunities for all to engage in the lifelong joy of learning. And whereas the Friends understand the critical importance of well-funded libraries that ensure a wide variety of services to all ages, including access to print and electronic materials, along with programs that educate, entertain, and offer fellowship. And whereas over the past decade, the Friends of the Victoria Public Library has provided approximately $250,000 to the Friends in support of programs, services, and amenities. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Balknight, Mayor of the City of Victoria, Texas, proclaim October 15th through 22nd as Friends of the Library Week in Victoria, Texas, and urge everyone to join the Friends and recognize the contributions they provide to make our library and community even better place to live.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Balknight, council members, staff, and guests. My name is Diana Sneed, and I'm the president of the Friends of the Library. Thank you so much for recognizing this week, October 15th through the 21st, as the Friends of the Library Week. The mission of our Friends is to support and enhance the services and programs of the library through financial donations, volunteerism, and advocacy to develop a literate and engaged community that supports lifelong learning for the greater quality of life. We host 3 book sales a year, and income from these sales, plus our membership and our sponsorships, allow us to donate $20,216.20 for fiscal year 2023. And we have also donated 667 volunteer hours from January to August of 2023, and that's valued at $21,260.60. So we invite everyone to come join the Friends for only $10 a month, $10 a year, I'm sorry. The Friends organization will grow in their support of the library and increase our volunteer hours. And we look forward to seeing everybody at our next book sale, which is January 14th through the 21st, 2024. Thank you so much. Here you are.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. For those of you who don't know, I'm Jessica Berger. I'm the director of the library. I just wanted to thank you all for highlighting this group. They have been supporting the Victoria Public Library, for over 50 years. With their continued support, we've been able to have programs such as the Summer Reading Program, free of charge, and our signature event, which is our Gingerbread House Workshop. We've hosted that for over 34 years, free of charge. And again, these are yearly things that our community has grown to love. What they don't tell you is they spend hours a week sorting books, not only working the book sales, and they also work at our have many of our programs volunteering. So again, thank you all for highlighting their work in the community.
All right, now we have Ms. Ashley Struvall with Distinguished Citizens Award recognition.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This is always one of my favorite city council meetings of the year because we get to recognize some very exciting, important people in the room. And so I'm going to go ahead and read them off to you right now and tell you a little bit about what they're doing. The following group of residents graduated from 3 of our city-hosted educational programs that are designed to engage our residents and promote good citizenship. For example, Citizens Academy, which is hosted by the city's communications department, is a 5-week educational program featuring leaders from various city departments and partner organizations within the city, discussing the ins and outs of city government. It even included a Q&A panel with City Manager Jesus Garza and you all, City Council members. In addition, we also host the Police Academy, hosted by our Victoria Police Department, which is an 11-week program, and Fire's Civilian Responder Program, which features the ability to rappel off of a 50-foot building, I believe, and use the jaws of life on a vehicle. Now, we don't require that. It is optional, but many people sign up for it. And we are proud to say that about 10 of our participants graduated from all 3 educational programs this year. And so we would like to affirm them now. As we call your name, please step up and receive your award. Thank you, Lauren Moe, by the way, who helps with this effort. The City of Victoria affirms that Debbie Breeden, Espiridion Castillo, Miss Mary Fillmore, Mr. Rafael Gonzalez, Jesse Olivares, David Peters, Elizabeth Podsum, Robert Rodriguez, Jody Schaefer, and Steve Shunk, who could not make it, have completed Citizens Academy, the Civilian Police Academy, and the Civilian Fire Academy Civilian Responder Program, and are hereby granted the title of Distinguished Citizen in recognition of outstanding citizenship, commitment to self-improvement, and dedication to the Victoria community. Conferred this 17th day of October 2023. Let's all join in a round of applause for these fine individuals. Thank you.
Hey! All right. I have one recognition. Last week, we got to present the State of the City address at the Chamber of Commerce, and while I was the one up there giving the actual presentation, there was so much work that went in behind the scenes to make it just an awesome presentation. And I wanted to thank Ashley Strivol again, Lauren Moe, Sam Hankins, George Partita, Shane Blucher, Adrian Gonzalez, Mr. James Foote. Keisha Smith and Derek Farrell helped really pull together all the slides, made it look really, really slick. The library, thank you all. Y'all did 3D printing. They have a 3D model now of the Public Safety Headquarters building, as well as decorations on the table. And then the other staff that decorated, such as April and Victoria, and Daryl Lesack was even out there decorating tables. So thank y'all so much for everything that y'all put into that for that event to happen. And it really looked good for the city and made the presentation look easy on my part, but there was so much that happened behind the scenes. So thank y'all so much. Great job. And and with that, we will go into items from council.
Mayor, I have one item.
Sure.
So I know we got a busy meeting, but I wanted to give just a quick update on the Victoria Youth Hunt this year. If y'all may remember, that was started back in 2001. Mayor, I know you
21.
were, I'm sorry, 21. I know you were instrumental in getting that going. And it is for those that don't know, it's a partnership between the Parks and Rec Department, the Texas Wildlife Association, and the Texas Youth Hunting Program. The goal is to expose novice, underserved kids ages 12 to 17 to the outdoors and the sport of hunting. This is typically, or in the last 2 years, has been held in Riverside Park. This year, there's been 5 youths that were selected to participate free of charge based on scholarship program through the Texas Parks and Wildlife. This year, the youth hunt will be held on November 3rd through the 5th, but a change of venue this year, it'll, instead of being in Riverside Park, that will necessitate closing the park, it will be held at the Port of Victoria. The commissioners of the Navigation District saw this as an opportunity for community engagement. There is undeveloped acreage out there that is, I think, prime for this sort of activity until it gets developed, which hopefully it will. And so they stepped up and said, hey, why don't we continue this program? We can do it out at the port, and that way we don't have to close down Riverside Park for it. And so anyway, I think we're looking forward to that, and I just wanted to give everybody an update and reminder.
Thank you, and thanks to the port for partnering with the Parks Department and Texas Parks and Wildlife Association, everybody that provides this opportunity to the youth in our city. So, thank you, Mr. Crocker.
You bet.
Anybody else have anything? All right, with that, we'll close items from council and go into citizens communication. And I have first, sorry if I mispronounced your last name, Tarax.
Close.
Okay. I can't read that one letter in there.
Penmanship was never my strong suit.
So if you just give us your name again, and remember, we have 3-minute time limit on speaking.
Okay, well, Mayor and council members, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Peter Takis, and I am the new Victoria County Democratic Party Chair. My wife and I have lived here in Victoria for 25 years. We've raised our daughters here, participated in their school and community activities, everything from science projects to the annual Christmas parade, and watched with pride as at their graduations as valedictorians from Victoria West High School. I'm a retired brewing chemist, and I have worked with many different people, groups, and organizations in this century and the last, always aiming to achieve the best possible results for everyone, not only for the group and organization that I was working for, but for the community as a whole. I'm excited to be part of the Victoria County Democratic Organization, especially during this time of growth. My party and I want to facilitate and accomplish great things for Victoria, from supporting public education to increasing participation in governance. We truly believe that when we make our community better for others, we also make it better for ourselves. In closing, I want to thank you for your patience, and I'm looking forward to participating in the community in many positive ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Takas. Ms. Gay Patek.
Greetings, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I hope you've all been doing well. It's been a year since I filled the vacated Library Advisory Board joint city and county seat. I've been to 5 Library Advisory Board meetings, several bylaw committee meetings. My husband and I now have grandbaby number 12. My mom turned 90 and my mother-in-law turned 91. Also, during this time, I've spent countless hours researching books, policies and procedures, weeding criteria, and other topics to work towards the public library being a safe place for the children of the Victoria area. I would appreciate your vote for reappointment, which is really an appointment, to the joint and city county seat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Patek. And we have Ms. Sisson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Ashley Sisson. I have applied to be reappointed to my seat on the Victoria Public Library Advisory Board, and I thank you for your consideration. Now I'd like to take an opportunity to just say a few words about myself. I love the concept of a public library in general, and I love our Victoria Public Library specifically. I would be a whole different person today if it weren't for the libraries that I've encountered throughout my life. I've learned a lot about libraries and librarianship in the past 3 years as I've served on the board. And I feel like I'm well qualified to serve another term. I use the library regularly, from checking out books, CDs, and videos, to printing things, attending programs, requesting materials through interlibrary loan, and just sitting in the library building, reading or writing in my journal, or people watching, or working on my crafts. As an adult who uses the library, I feel like I provide an important perspective to the advisory board. I'd like the opportunity to continue providing that perspective and respectfully ask that you reappoint me to the Library Advisory Board. Again, I thank you for your consideration and have a good evening.
Thank you. Ms. Angela Lapis.
Hello and good evening, esteemed members of the Victoria City Council. If I may take a few moments to introduce myself. My name is Angela Lapis, and I'm a proud resident and homeowner in historic downtown Victoria, specifically in the original town site historic district. I wanted to express how wonderful it is serving, or actually seeing, the regrowth of the downtown area as a hub for activity and commerce for the citizens of Victoria. Central to this is a well-funded and supported Victoria Public Library to serve the city by providing educational resources, books, and civic-minded activities for the citizens of Victoria. I'd like to express my interest in giving back publicly to the city by serving on the advisory board for the Victoria Public Library. In terms of my personal profession, I currently came to Victoria for the healthcare industry, and there I serve on various national committees, hospital committees, and other local committees involved in policy and procedure implementation, strategic planning, and certain finance operations for the hospitals, other committees, and my national organizations. And I'd like to bring that ability and that enthusiasm to the City of Victoria by serving on the Victoria Advisory Board for the Public Library. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service to this community.
Thank you, Ms. Lapis. Mr. Desi Lopez.
Good evening, Mayor and fellow council members. I'm here to talk about a topic we all are interested in: food. We all need it. We all go to it. And our local eateries here, Bloom and Flower is the only business downtown that's available to eat on Sunday mornings. Scones, coffee, you come to church, get a little hungry afterwards before you want to go out. Bloom and Flower is available on Sunday morning. Other eateries, Fostetti's during the week, go to. It's going to be here forever. Huvar's going to be here forever. But all these local ones, another poor decision, I think they make another one. They're trying to serve meatloaf on Wednesday. It's not going to happen. You got Waterwell Diner, where I saw Mayor Bachnight enjoying a good meal. We got to support these local eateries by being patrons of the local eateries. We can't just blow smoke at them and wish them the best. We got to actually go there. We got to actually tip the waiters and waitresses who are trying their best. And we can't force them to open Little Debbie, like Jesus Garza said on Sunday, because they may have religious beliefs, and not be open. But if we patronize them Monday through Saturday to where they can hire somebody who wants to work and doesn't believe on Sunday or the Sabbath, then we can afford their electricity, their overhead, to be open. Because having to drive all the way up to Denny's or IHOP to get something to eat? No. Go to La Concha where you had that ribbon cutting. Get some pan dulce. Oh, also available down the street over by, the food bank, La Pasadita. Good, authentic Mexican food. Homemade tortillas that melt when you squeeze them too hard. I support my local eateries, and I don't have the income to eat at local eateries. But I go, I'll have a side dish, I'll have an oatmeal, I'll have an okra, just to support them, because I heard somebody say downtown has been sleeping. Well, Rip Van Winkle needs to wake up. There is good places to eat around here, but they're not open. And you got no public transportation on Sunday, so you can't even get to the places if you're like me having to walk. But we need to support them. And by supporting them, that means once a week, have that little spinning wheel. Instead of Denny's, Burger King, and McDonald's, have Waterwell, El Paso. Have the ones you want to be down here. Because if you don't go to them, they're not going to be here too long. And no matter how much you beautify them and paint them and make them look beautiful, if you don't get the local people in here to get them, why is a tourist going to come here? A tourist here is Mumford's, Fostetti's, Huvar's. They don't hear all the new ones that we've got. And we have to be the word of mouth to let our relatives who are coming to visit, people coming in on the airport, we got places to come to. Because to be honest, you don't got nothing on Sunday. I walk in the middle of the street, maybe one or two cars. So we need to attract the local people here. Clean up Queen City in time to come downtown while we're cleaning it up. I'm just saying, Victoria, focus on those who really eat here. And that's us, residents. I have my ready-to-eat pants, my fat pants on. But you know what? Thanksgiving's coming up. We all got to be grateful. And I thank you for allowing me to still be a resident in this city.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Mrs. Buchanan.
Hello. Good afternoon, or actually evening now, City Council members and Mayor Bachnight. My name is Jewel Buchanan. As y'all know, I've been here a couple of times, and I live at 201 Creek Ridge Drive. And as a frequent viewer of the County Commissioners Court, City Council meetings through live stream, I wanted to publicly commend you guys for the thorough discussion of and fiscally responsible decision-making that you did last meeting concerning the agreement between our county airport's funding and management. I watched and listened to the county's presentation as well as the presentation by you, Mr. Mayor, and the added input by you, Mr. Crocker, and the rest of the board. And your unanimous council decision to support our county airport through matching grants for specific projects in lieu of signing up for years of cutting and or reducing our city improvement projects due to the proposal 50-50 funding split of the county airport budget was a sound decision with all of Victoria in mind, and I applaud it. I know a lot of work went into that idea, and sometimes things just don't work out. The county is a taxing entity for all of us, just as the city is. Our county judge has mentioned some other avenues that he has for increasing his county revenue on or near the airport grounds, and that to me seems like a better plan for everyone. I had planned to email you guys all of this, but then I realized that the library advisory position was on the agenda, so I thought I'd kill two birds with one stone. I have submitted my application again. Just wanted to remind you guys of my experience as a kindergarten teacher since 1989, an all-level public school librarian since 7 years plus, that would be 1996. And I have substituted in all levels of the library here in VISD. And I have also served on the Library Advisory Board. I did one term as a regular member, and then I was voted chair of the Library Advisory Board. So I humbly submit my application again. It sounds like you've got a lot of great people to pick from. And thank you again for your time, your decisions last week, your thoughtfulness, and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Buchanan. Mr. Fisk.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and interested citizens. Back when I was young and stupid, I thought that libraries were mainly a collection of old books that could be used for research. I've learned a lot since then. Mainly, I have learned who and what the library is for. In many respects, a good library must contain contradictory ideas and policies. It will have books and it will have audio tapes and movies. As some people age, they will first read regular print books, move on to large print, and as their eyesight fails, they may move to audiobooks. Audiobooks are also great for people who commute or travel. Movies allow families to avoid the cost of paying for theater tickets. There will be materials for those who wish to strengthen their faith. There will also be materials for those who feel that their faith has abandoned them. Materials for those who want to understand people of other cultures and religions. You can plan your wedding or prepare for divorce. You can find information on how to stay together or the steps necessary to leave an abusive relationship. There are books to help guardians guide their children through subjects they might not be comfortable with, such as Single Dad Who Must Explain the Changes That Are Happening to Their Daughter's Body or Understand the Nuances of Grief or Mental or Terminal Illnesses. Computers are available so you can learn the skills necessary to escape poverty by finding a better career, or you can write a resignation letter. Other options might include college and workforce testing. There should be lots of programs for children, starting with the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program, whose purpose is to encourage a love of reading for your children and getting them to associate reading with love and affection. Then we can move on to programs on art, music, crafts, and animals to add what children are learning at home or at school. We can balance that with programs for adults that might include crafting, quilting, art, and genealogy. The library should provide a safe and welcoming place for all citizens. That includes being a place where there is no expectation of having to spend money just for a place to be. A place where you can choose to be alone to escape the noise of the world around you. Or a place where you can escape the solitude of a lonely world. A place where the unhoused can cool off in the summer heat or avoid the cold. Tonight you get to choose who to put on the Library Advisory Board. I ask that you choose individuals who understand who our patrons are and the diversity of their needs. I'm not the only one here who can do that. I know that Jewel, Ashley, Jill, and Kim can hold these thoughts in their hearts and heads as well as I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisk. Mr. Biles.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Stephen Biles. I'm representing the Victoria Youth Soccer Organization as the president of the board. I just kind of thought that since we're using the soccer fields out at the Riverside Soccer Complex, that I'd kind of give you an update on how we're doing. And we are doing well. Since we started, our first season was in the 21 fall season. That was 5 seasons ago. We had 414 players that season. This year, at this season, right now, we have 687 recreational soccer players. I'm just, you know, my goal for this season, which was an unrealistic goal, was 650. And I was really hoping we'd get to 600, and we are almost at 700. I think a large portion of why we're here at this is due to the way that Parks and Rec is managing those fields. They're in really good shape for us. I'm constantly getting parents saying, hey, we really like playing here at Riverside. These fields are in great condition. And we at VYSO just want to say thank you. All right? So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Biles. Mr. Von der Rohe.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Michael Bondro. I live at 2204 East North Street. We just had a massage parlor raided by the Special Crimes Unit of the Police Department and the Sheriff's Department. It was a joint effort. And anyway, there was 2 females arrested. I didn't want to publicly name the address, but it's off Navarro, kind of like by Jason's Deli. And a lot of people don't know that now the John, he's being charged with a state jail felony, you know. So if you're a lawyer or an engineer or a doctor and you get charged with the felony for your first time, you can't be practicing law from the jail. It's kind of hard, you know, not many clients going to come, you know. And a long time ago, it used to be a misdemeanor, but the reason they changed it is because sex trafficking of young girls like 12 to 13. And the state senator and the governor, they come down on that. And if it's with someone 18 or younger, it's a 3rd-degree felony, and that's 2 to 10. And if you have 1 conviction already, that's 2 to 20 years, a 2nd-degree felony. And it's not like Pretty Woman where everything's fun. You know, there's no fun to it. A lot of people are forced into this work against their wishes, and the state of Texas is cracking down on it. And on September 2021, they passed that new law to make it a state jail felony and no longer a Class B misdemeanor. And also at Christ Kitchen and the Queen City Park, there's about 12 loose dogs, and these ain't stray dogs, they're own dogs. And the reason I know they're own dogs is because when animal control comes, they go like a jackrabbit underneath the house where they live, you know. And these dogs are very intelligent, and no one believes in using leashes at Christ Kitchen or Queen City. And one person has already got bit by a dog and had to go to the hospital. And the leash policies aren't enforced at Christ Kitchen or Queen City Park. I don't know if they need to hire a park ranger just to work at Queen City Park, but they have made better changes. They've had a law enforcement that works, as far as I know, 8 to 5 at Christ Kitchen, you know, to keep order. And I don't feel like safe going over there because of the shooting and all the other stuff, you know. And there's also someone that was stabbed about a year ago at Queen City Park, and they're looking for Ray. He's on Crime Stoppers. $800 reward if you find it. Thanks, and have a good day. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Von der Rohe. All right, with that, that'll conclude the citizens' communication, and we'll go into items with public hearing, item C1.
Item C1 is an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Division 3 of the Victoria City Code pertaining to the junk vehicle administrative process.
Good evening. So I have a very brief introduction. First, I'd just like to say that we, Development Services or Code Enforcement specifically, are really excited to have this in front of you. Junk vehicles are kind of our most burdensome type of case to enforce, and the flexibility that this new ordinance will give us as far as using the court of record and having an administrative order and being able to show tow truck drivers a court order to remove a vehicle will be so beneficial and valuable to us, so we're really excited. So with that, I'm going to actually ask Ryan Henry with Ryan Henry Law Firm to come up and give y'all a brief overview of what this proposed ordinance will do for us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Ryan Henry. I'm an attorney out of San Antonio. I've been a municipal lawyer since 1998, so this is just kind of what I normally do. And I was asked to help consult and work on this ordinance for you. This is designed to kind of be the next step after you guys have gone to a court of record to utilize the abilities in the court to give your staff more efficiency, more freedom, more choices, as well as alleviate some of the obstacles that they were facing as they were trying to enforce the junk vehicle ordinance. The ordinance itself is a lot of red when you look at it. Initially, that's because you're adding the different options. You still have the same options that you had before, But in addition to the ones that are provided for by state laws, the state law options do have some limitations or restrictions that don't really, are not designed to only apply when you have certain conditions that your city encounters. And so the state law allows you to create this alternative administrative process. And so you've built in a little more notice, a little more due process, but a lot more efficiency in the way that it's managed and as you're moving forward. So instead of going through it line by line, which I'm sure you don't want to do because you'd be here all night, I'm happy to answer any questions for you, but the purpose of it, as I said, really was just kind of that next step in utilizing the power of your court of record to make things more efficient for your staff.
I had one question on it.
Yes, sir.
It mentions in here about, let's see if I can find it again. A public junk vehicle, which is also a public nuisance. It says about bringing it back on site after it's reconstructed.
Yes, sir.
It's, I'm sorry, section D, let's see, it's section 1051, junked vehicles defined. It's item D.
Yes, sir. So the state law, even though you can adopt an alternative administrative process, still has some minimum requirements for you. And so what you're doing in this is, if you look at, let me flip to this section, B, so 10-51B, it notes junk vehicles under A1 and A3 are public nuisances because the state law kind of defines them that way. And the state law defines them that way, and that basically means you can't allow them to be repurposed or brought into compliance. And part of the problems that staff were having were some things were close and they could be fixed, but if they went ahead and declared them a nuisance, then they had to be crushed and demolished. And so the staff wanted the ability, the flexibility, in order to let people fix things, right? And so what this does, I know it's a bit of a tongue twister, the way it's worded, but really the purpose is it allows it to be a junk vehicle to start the process, but it doesn't qualify as a nuisance. Therefore, if it qualifies under section 2, then, or A2, then it can be brought into compliance. So it allows you to address situations when those come up, but let people fix them.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, or was that too convoluted?
I think so, but in this, there's not also a definition of public nuisance, or is that just already in state law, so we don't have to redefine it in this?
Yeah, so there is a section in state law. You also have a nuisance provision in other portions of your code. This was written to kind of integrate to your existing code.
Okay.
And I don't want to end up with conflicts, right, in the definitions. And so it's just adopting the definitions you already have.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and council, is this working? I think it's working. Is it not working? We thought we fixed it.
How it is. As soon as you walk away, it
As soon as
starts
I
working.
walk away, it works, of course. And we just want to say, we're very excited about this ordinance. We see this as a progression from when we became a court of record and sort of the next step in that process. Just so that you are aware, if and when this ordinance does pass, we will then bring Ryan in to do training, much like we did when we initiated the court of record, with the judge, with staff, code enforcement, so that everybody has a really clear understanding. Obviously, there's some new procedures that everyone's going to have to get used to, but we are very excited, and we think that this is going to be very good for the department to have essentially multiple options on how to handle this particular situation.
Great, thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll open a public hearing on item C1. Anybody wishing to speak on this item, please come to the front mic. Seeing no one come forward, we will close the public hearing and entertain any motions.
I move we adopt. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve item C1. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we're into the consent agenda.
Item D1 is the adoption of minutes of the special meeting held on October 2nd, 2023. Item D2 is the approval of the removal of the juvenile curfew from the city ordinance section 15-30 through 15-34 to align with state law, and that item is on second and third reading. Item D2 is a resolution approving an amendment to the professional services agreement for the Sports Facility Feasibility Study in an amount not to exceed $4,205.59. That makes a big difference. For the total amount of $53,705.50. Item D4 is a resolution approving an annual software maintenance to Central Square Technologies in an amount of $199,687.63. Item D5 is a resolution approving a 3-year contract with the 2 optional annual renewals for the Christmas decorating services for Sherrarium Company in the total 3-year amount of $119,490. Item D6 is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Flood Ace LLC for pavement analysis services for the 2024 residential street program and 2024 mill and overlay projects in the amount of $96,225. Item D7 is a resolution approving a contract renewals with Lawn Star Yard Care, Ground Effects Landscaping LLC, and Bio Landscape and Maintenance Incorporated, DBA Yellowstone Landscaping, for the mowing of the city-owned properties in the cumulative amount of $637,752.03. Item D8 is a resolution approving the annual software maintenance fees with Tyler Technologies in amount not to exceed $57,742.15.
Move we accept the consent agenda as read.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item E1.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Excellent, okay. Item E1 is a resolution appointing or reappointing 3 members to the Victoria Public Library Advisory Board.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The resolution before you tonight will appoint 3 members to the Library Advisory Board. Listed here is the focus areas of that board. They're the liaison between the community and governing bodies and library management. They provide feedback to management in areas of planning and library goals, feedback to library management and development of policies and strategic plans. They advocate for the library budget and monetary support, and they advocate and support legislative initiatives concerning the library and perform other duties and functions as delegated by the city and county. The board composition, this one's a little different than all of our other boards. All appointments are for 3 years. Their city appointees may serve 2 consecutive terms, and county appointees may serve 3 consecutive terms. It is quite a large board, so we have 4 county appointed positions, 4 city appointed positions, 1 joint city-county appointed position, and 1 representative from the Friends of the Library and 1 representative from the Bronte Club. So here is listed all the current members. So we have 2 appointments for city positions with terms ending in October 2026 that are up, and then 1 appointment for the joint position, with the city-county position, with the term also ending in October 2026, and that's the city-county position must also be approved by the county commissioners. So we have 18 applicants. So Ms. Ashley Sison, who spoke earlier, and Gay Potek are both current members. Ms. Potek currently holds the city-county position. They're both asking to be reappointed, and then we have applications from Angela Lapis, Angelica Knickerbocker, Ann Riggs, Brenda Gonzalez, Catherine Olson, Charles Thrash, Donna Roberts, Harley Fisk, Joel Buchanan, Jill Blucher, Kay McCaney, Kim Pickens, Lisa Jones, Rosemary Townsend, Samantha Bell, and Susan Boyle. So that's the short presentation that I have. I do have some ballots ready to go if y'all.
Well, I have a suggestion. We have 18 applicants. I think we'd be here a while trying to whittle it down. If I could get 3 volunteers, or I'd like to appoint a small nominating committee to decide upon if we want to reappoint and just come up with a smaller slate. And that nominating committee can call and interview any of them they want to, or go through all the applications. No set process to come back with a smaller slate to city council, but to consider them just a 3-member committee. If there's anybody that would like to sit on it.
I'll volunteer.
Thank you, Mr.
I think it's a good
Lofgren.
idea. 18 is, we'd be here all night.
Yep.
Well, I went through all the applications. I'd like to get it over with tonight. But if the council wants to go with the committee, I want to be on that committee.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Is that Miss Salisa here?
Yeah, I heard.
You heard that as well.
Yeah, I heard Ms. Solis. I nominate Ms. Solis.
Okay, Ms.
But
Scott.
if you want to appoint Ms. Solis, that's
No,
fine.
I won't do that to her. But great, that's, and what I would anticipate, we probably just need a motion to table till the next meeting. But next meeting, we'll come back with that slate and do our voting at that time. But yeah, okay, so then I will appoint Mr. Lofgren, not Mr. Longoria, Mr. Lofgren.
Thank you.
Ms. Scott and Mr. De La Garza. And we'll just get it down to, I'm going to trust y'all to come back with an appropriate number that we can vote on. I'd say probably about 5 or 6. And y'all can determine if we're going to reappoint. Just totally up to y'all. Okay?
Are we going to accept any additions to the applications? If someone wants to update their resume or their application with information, are we going to accept that, or are we going to go by what we already have?
Well, should be an application form that the city secretary's office already has on everyone.
Well, we
It's all
also
the
have
same.
it, but what I'm asking is if someone wants to update theirs or add more information.
If you need more information from any of them, you're welcome to reach out to them.
Okay.
I'm kind of in agreement with you that it's on the agenda for tonight, and so I don't know that we need more applicants.
Not more applicants, you're saying more information.
More
But if you need more
information, yeah,
information,
we can
I just contact them and get
That's
more
fine.
information from them. So if someone didn't mind making a motion to table until the next,
I move we table it until the next table E1 until the next meeting.
A second.
okay. Thank you. You got a motion and a second to table E1 to the next meeting, pending the nominating. We'll have the nominating committee report before that, and then we'll vote on it. Thank y'all for volunteering.
That's an
Appreciate it.
excellent idea, Mayor. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we're into city manager reports.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to move the sports facility study up to the first report. Oh, and before we get into that, thank you to the 18 applicants. Thanks for your patience. I appreciate everybody's time and effort to fill out the application and showing your interest in the Library Advisory Board. It's a great group of candidates, and it's going to be a tough job to whittle it down, and I appreciate council members choosing to go do that. So thank y'all.
And for the newly appointed members on the subcommittee, we'll reach out to you to help coordinate, this meeting. So expect to hear from us on that.
All right, sports
All right.
facility study, Mr. Garza.
Okay, all right. So an exciting afternoon, I would say. As you know, we've been embarking on a slew of different master plans over the course of the last few years. We'll get into a little bit more detail on the timeline of this one, but this one specifically focuses on sports facilities. And to go through the presentation, I'm going to ask Dan Morton, who's the Vice President for Pre-Development Services with the sports facility companies, to come up and walk us through the timeline and the findings of their assessment. And we will discuss some recommended next steps after that as well.
Thanks for letting me give a presentation this evening. Hope everyone's doing well. I've got a lot of information to cover, so I'm going to go through it relatively quickly, but happy to answer any questions that you do have once we go through presentation of findings. As Jesus mentioned, we were engaged earlier this year to really assess the market opportunity for the enhancement of existing and/or development of new sports facilities in the city, with a focus on sports tourism, driving new visitation to the community through tournaments and events, and then also community access through recreation programs at facilities. So what we'll cover, give you a little overview of who we are and what we do. I'll do that quickly. At Sports Facilities Companies, or SFC, we'll talk about the process that we went through to assess the market opportunity. We've prioritized the opportunities to enhance existing or develop new facilities. So I'll talk through what we looked at, what we believe the right prioritization of the potential developments are. We've got some recommendations on enhancing existing and developing new facilities. We'll talk about an opinion of costs to do that. And then we'll wrap with some opportunities for and examples of where we've seen other facilities developed around the country, projects that we've been involved with, just to give you some idea of some of the creative funding ways that these facilities are developed, as well as how public-private partnerships come into play. And then we'll wrap just with a little discussion on next steps. In terms of who we are and what we do, Sports Facilities Companies, or SFC, sorry, the numbers got a little bit of a weird formatting up there with conversion, but we've been in this industry since 2003. We get involved in the analysis, development, and management of youth and amateur sports, recreation, entertainment, and event facilities across the country. We manage our network of managed venues will be growing to over 40 venues here very shortly. This is an example of where we currently operate facilities, both indoor, outdoor, and combination indoor-outdoor facilities. You'll see quite a few in Texas. Happy to talk through any of those examples. But the key from this is that everything that we do on an analysis side and a recommendation side is driven through what we know to be true in the industry from facilities that we've helped open, and as well as ones that we've managed over the last 20 plus years. And so just know anything that we're recommending, anything that we're analyzing is based on real world data and our best ability to give you recommendations that are realistic and can be achieved through development of sports assets. What I have here is just an example of what we call concept to concrete, just to bring us to where we are in the process of facility development, whether that's enhancing existing facilities or developing new. You can see a sort of a winding path there, which is indicative of what it often takes to develop facilities. We are really in the beginning of this process. So what we've completed is really that first step in market feasibility, understanding the opportunities, recommending what we believe to be the right assets for you all based on the goals, and then giving you some opportunities for what it could take to develop facilities. From there are a lot of steps. It typically takes about 2 to 3 years for new facilities to be developed from when we're standing here doing feasibility and when we cut the ribbon to opening. And so just wanted to give you some perspective of where are we on that journey and that process to develop facilities. From a process overview perspective, I'll do this very briefly. There's a lot of details that go into it. But essentially what we do is we start with what we call definitions of success. There's a lot of factors that go into market feasibility, but we really test what the goals of our clients are and the communities that we serve. And then we test those against what the market opportunity is. And so I'll talk about what we heard as the definition of success in just a minute, but we take those definitions of success and then we do a lot of analysis. That's data-driven, as well as conversations with folks in the community, everything from demographics and socioeconomics to participation rates in different sports activities, understanding how your current facilities are operating, how they're being used, looking at the competitive landscape, both locally, sub-regionally, and regionally. And then we're looking at, from our experience across the country in developing these facilities, to use all that information and give you recommendations on what some opportunities may be. We view our jobs as not to tell you what to do, but to present you with the data so that you can make great informed decisions. And obviously we can help you with that. So in terms of definition success, I'm not going to read everything there, but what we heard when we were engaged to do this analysis is new facilities or enhanced existing facilities. Really the focus is how do you enhance, or how do we enhance the ability for Victoria to be a destination for sports tourism. And so those are multi-day events that draw people from out of town. So we see that draw is typically in the 4 to 6 hour range, right? Driving here, staying overnight, spending in hotels, restaurants, retail, et cetera, and participating in those events in facilities. And so that's the number one goal. And so that's going to be important context as we look at the recommendations and how we've prioritized it. But that goal is number one, is enhancing your ability to do that with the existing facilities and potential new. And then as you can see, enhancing some infrastructure and how those facilities function and serve both tournaments and the local community, create more opportunities for local residents to participate in sports and recreation. And then obviously always important is improving financial performance of existing assets and limiting ongoing operational subsidies. So we'll talk about how those things go. But number one is sports tourism, and then number two is, how do we create access from a community perspective? So that's what we test against. I'm going to go through just some of the data sampling again to talk about how we build the case for opportunities. You can see here, this is a drive time breakdown of demographic and socioeconomic factors that we look at. We look at a total of 68 factors as we analyze opportunities. This is sampling, but you can see we're analyzing the local population, the more regular users of facilities that are going to be mostly on the weekdays, right, week to week, and then getting out to that 4-hour drive time, as I mentioned. That's where we're going to have the ability to capture people to travel for tournaments and events. And so we've looked at population, income, growth potential, age, and spending on like assets to really set the stage of what is happening here within your local, sub-regional, regional area. I'll just mention on the regional side, access to 17.2 million people is really positive, right? You've got a lot of people within that regional drive time where if you create a destination and build on what you already have, the potential exists to drive more visitation and traffic to Victoria through tournaments and events. We also look at competition, and that may be small. It's a sampling of what is the competitive landscape, right? This is regional competition for baseball, softball fields, and we're looking at facilities that exist in the region that have enough inventory of fields to drive tournaments and events. That's going to be important as we talk through this, is that in order to establish a new destination, we have to reach enough inventory to make this attractive to rights holders, teams, parents, players, etc. This is an example of our multi-purpose fields or soccer fields. We can play soccer, lacrosse, football, etc. Some of the competitive landscape within the region that we're looking and understanding how could Victoria compete? How does it compete now through the facilities you have? And how could it compete with enhanced or new facilities? And so as we look at the data that's in the market analysis, we also then looked at different facilities, both new and existing. So you can see a list there. Existing facilities that we analyzed were adult sports complex, youth sports complex, the community center and arena, the Riverside soccer complex, Riverside golf course, and then Riverside Stadium and the adjacent fields. And so what we want to make sure we do is prioritize where could you leverage your existing infrastructure to meet some of these goals, if that's possible. We then analyze the opportunity for new facilities, for outdoor fields, outdoor multipurpose, and indoor courts and events to understand how you could fit into that competitive landscape. So again, the key being leveraging existing assets where you can and have the ability to, and then potentially developing new assets if there's opportunity. Just a key, again, factors driving the prioritization of development. Number one, ability to achieve definition of success, specifically attracting sports tourism. What are the existing assets like, the condition, where are they located, those types of things, and how they operate. The potential capital and available funds obviously is always something that's important. Acreage, and then some other factors. And so we use those to prioritize our recommendations for potential development. Excuse me. So listing here is our high, medium, and low priority. Again, low priority doesn't mean that it's not important to the community. Low priority means in the context of driving heads and beds and sports tourism, right? And so on the high priority side, and we'll talk through each one of these models, we think the best potential investment to, or the best bang for your buck or return on investment for tourism is into adult sports complex and new field development within that location, both where the existing fields are and some adjacent acreage. Youth sports complex and enhancing that facility and its ability to serve and be a tournament destination. Medium priority, we looked at an indoor court and events facility. Just get ahead of it. That's going to be a very expensive endeavor. We analyzed the potential for the community center and indoor arena that exists to serve in that capacity. The realities of that building and that facility is it's just not the right dimension, size, experience to really enhance that to be a premier destination. And so while we'd love and we'd encourage to use existing infrastructure, we don't feel that that's the right building to try to do something like that. And I can talk more about that. So we looked at the indoor court events facility on a new development side, but based on the cost and the potential of that facility, we have that as a medium priority. Riverside Soccer Complex is medium priority. Not that it isn't important, but those fields exist now. There's an opportunity to enhance those fields and that inventory. But really what we're seeing here is that there's a need for field inventory in terms of number of fields, and adding quality assets is a higher priority than enhancing some of that. And so we'll talk about that as well. And then again, lower priority side is the golf course and the stadium. We understand, how important those are to the community. So again, this is with a sports tourism focus. The stadium is important to stakeholders as well as the community, and is likely in need of renovation and enhancements, which we've talked about and I'll share. But the reality is those are going to be enhancements and they're going to accentuate what you can do with sports tourism fields, but won't drive events on their own. And so that's why they're a lower priority. So getting into those recommendations, I'm going to talk through, the recommendations specific to adult sports complex, youth sports complex, and then we'll identify some of those future opportunities that we did analyze as well. In terms of the space, just to give you some visual of what we've looked at. So number 1 here is obviously the youth sports complex. Number 3 shown there is the existing adult sports complex fields. And then number 2 is some adjacent acreage that we think is ideal to serve in some of the enhancement to create more inventory here. Our recommendations for the adult sports complex are to develop an additional 6 fields. These are flexible fields, all synthetic turf. They can serve both baseball, softball, so diamond sports, as well as multi-purpose fields. So really flexible in their use. I'll show you some examples of that. But 4 of those have the ability to be a full-size diamond, with the ability to run youth fields on top of that, as well as soccer fields. And then 2 of those are essentially a longer soccer field with diamonds in the corners, as well as some secondary support buildings for food and beverage and things like that. You'll see the
just
field.
real quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to clarify. So you mentioned 6 additional fields, but what we're really talking about is replacing the existing 4 and adding 2.
Yep.
So we're not suggesting keeping the 4 and adding 6 for a total of 10 adult fields. I want to clarify that. We're suggesting replacing the existing 4 with 6. Just to be clear.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you. And so what that'll do is give you an inventory with 6 fields to replace what's at adult sports complex and use some of that adjacent acreage and complement the 12 fields that you have at youth sports complex with the soccer complex as well. That allows you to go to up to 18 youth baseball, softball fields. That gives you go up to 11 multi-purpose fields, including what's out there at the Riverside Soccer Complex. That starts to get into the inventory to be a tournament destination. And so part of the reason why we prioritize that is by using existing sites, enhancing that, it complements your existing fields and gives you the best opportunity for a return on investment without spending as much as it's going to take to build a whole new complex. So again, these are really flexible. I'm going to flip through these pictures really quickly. These are just examples of how these fields can work. We operate these fields across the country. They are successful, and we've got examples of it. But you can see a full baseball field that also has the ability to be a full soccer field over that space. Just again, another visual of how that can work. This is a longer soccer field that can then also be a youth baseball, softball, 2 fields. And so these are portable base paths, portable mounds, and portable fencing. Has to be turf so that we can use it in that flexible way. But it will allow you to really be flexible in how we can drive the max volume of tournaments and visitation to the area. For that development, this is a summary of what's detailed in our report, but we estimate it to be about a $17.7 million development for those new fields, as well as the buildings associated with it. You can see the categories there. One thing I'll point out is we have included some escalation. We expect costs to continue to increase, and so we're again that timeline of about 2 to 3 years. We've included some escalation there that it is likely to get more expensive, but $17.7 million for the development of the enhancement of the adult sports complex. In terms of potential performance, we haven't studied a full financial forecast, but looking at the industry and how facilities perform, you can see some opportunities from a low to high range of how other facilities achieve revenue, net operating income, and economic impact. Essentially, we think there's the opportunity for these fields at the high-performing level to be a break-even operationally, which is rare for most Parks and Recreation assets, but because they're turf and because we have the opportunity to generate revenue through tournaments, there's an opportunity to do that. And then there's an opportunity to generate significant economic impact as well, in the range of $4.5 to up to $15 million on an annual basis in new direct spend to the community through tournaments and events. And so part of the next steps will be studying that further if that's something that the city's interested in, but that gives you some idea of how these assets perform in our portfolio and throughout the industry. Youth Sports Complex, really focused on how do we enhance that asset to serve and the ability to host more tournaments and events. You can see we've got two options. We've given you an option where you turf all those fields. That does a couple of things. That'll reduce your operating costs. Obviously, upfront costs will be higher, but you'll reduce your ongoing operating costs, and you'll be able to play more and guarantee more for tournaments, so that'll enhance your ability to drive tournaments and heads and beds. And then we think there's opportunity for some facility enhancements to food and beverage, scoreboards and audio equipment, as well as reconfiguring the entrance and ticketing areas. So to bring that facility more up to speed from a tournament perspective, those are the enhancements that we've looked at. From a cost perspective, we expect all of those enhancements to be about $5.4 million to turf those fields, as well as enhance those assets. If you just look at facility enhancements only, because the reality is that facility does serve for tournaments as currently, and if you didn't have the funds to go to synthetic turf, those other enhancements would be about $300,000. But again, that's all detailed in our report for those recommendations. This is just an example of what we see from a natural grass versus synthetic turf. This chart essentially shows the 10-year cost of natural grass is the green line, as it's less expensive in the beginning, but that as you operate, it's more expensive, so it becomes more costly over 10 years. Turf's more expensive in year zero, but it becomes less expensive as you go out because you're reducing your operating costs and can drive more revenue. Essentially, we see pretty close to break even. All this shows a benefit of turf, but a pretty close to break even over 10 to 12 years, right, of natural grass versus turf. The difference is you can generate more revenue with turf and you can drive more tournaments and events and heads and beds. And rights holders in the industry today are looking for synthetic turf so they can guarantee their events and not worry about rainouts and things like that. And so our recommendation is synthetic turf, if obviously funds allow, which will be more expensive up front, but will be more beneficial in the long term and less costly to operate.
What's the useful life?
Yeah, that's what
when
I
you
was
put
gonna
in
say.
synthetic? I mean, how long does that?
Yeah,
how
yeah.
often do you have to replace it?
Yep. Of course, it depends on usage, right, and utilization. But on average, you're going to look in the 10 to 15 year range, right? And so over those 10 years, it's pretty much equal cost. And then you'll be looking at reinvesting into your turf depending on how you've upkept it and how it's been maintained. And so you'll have another investment into that. Again, that another 10-year lifespan, you would expect that to be pretty equal, but you're driving more heads and beds.
So really the benefit of it is the predictability of the tournaments because
That's right.
of the drainage.
That's exactly right. Yep. So although low priority, we also analyzed what would we recommend to do to all the other facilities that weren't in the high priority category. So just briefly talking through those, indoor model, we do believe there's an opportunity for a court and event-based facility to be a destination here. That would take about 100,000 square foot indoor facility. You would need to get to about an inventory of 8 basketball courts that can be cross-lined with 16 volleyball courts. That's important, right? If you were to say, well, if we just build 4 courts, we can host smaller tournaments. The reality is the industry today is you have to get to a certain inventory to compete. And if you're not getting there, you're not going all the way and you're going to reduce your opportunity to drive sports tourism. And so that's based on our regional analysis of the number of courts that you're going to need to be able to compete. And so you can see, some details of that facility. At Riverside Soccer, we think there's opportunity to increase and create better parking, which will help serve as a tournament asset. To partner with golf course on some mobile food and beverage. Obviously, there's concerns there from a flood perspective about building buildings. It'll be important for tournaments to have food and beverage. That's going to be your number one revenue stream, and so creative ways to do that. And then better wayfinding, seating, and lighting throughout the complex. Obviously, those fields will need lights if you're going to run tournaments. And then there's an opportunity to create some championship field setting out there as well. Baseball stadium. Opportunity across the board. Obviously, I think some structural analysis will need to be done on what can be kept and what needs to be new. But in our look, we would recommend returfing the infield as well as turfing the outfield for the reasons we talked about. Upgrading, your shade structures, replacing stands, upgrading bleachers, upgrading player locker rooms, and increasing the cages and warm-up areas. Again, that stadium is a great asset. It fits in with the history. There's a lot of history there and could be a great enhancement to tournaments. But we don't expect it to drive events on its own, and so that's why it's not prioritized that way. And then the golf course, there's opportunity to improve food and beverage sources. Again, doing that in a mobile way because you've got those flood concerns with building. And then you can see we've looked at driving range to have automated ball systems and things like that. We think there's opportunity to do that, drive more revenue, enhance the experience. But again, that's more of a community focused development rather than driving sports tourism. not going to read all this, but this is the cost. Same detail on each one of these opportunities to develop what it would cost. You can see the soccer complex is about $2.3 million. Baseball stadium's about $3.4 million. Again, that doesn't include a structural analysis of the existing buildings. That could be additional costs you would need to undertake with engineers of how that would be. But the assets that we could see that need to be enhanced, about $3.4 million. The golf course, just over $800,000. And then the big one, the indoor sports complex, as I mentioned earlier, that would be a very big investment, right? We're talking about $31.1 million to get in the game there, if you will, from indoor. And so indoor is an opportunity, but based on the cost versus what you could do to enhance your existing outdoor, we had that as a lesser priority, but it could be a successful model. So then I'll just wrap with some funding examples. I'll go through this relatively quickly. I know we want to get to questions. The key here is that every community that we see, we do about 150 studies a year. No two facilities are funded the same way, and it takes strategic and multiple funding sources and partnerships to create facilities in our experience. And so it's important to understand that and give you some examples of what we see. This is just some potential funding sources from what we've seen, traditional lending, traditional bonds, to things like TIF districts, special taxing districts. Again, not taxing on your existing population, but sales and use taxes. One of the biggest one that's used in our industry is hotel motel tax. We see that around the country, leveraging tourism dollars to create more tourism dollars. Pretty easy to think about it that way. And then you've got some unique funding opportunities here as well. So we're just getting to the tip of the iceberg in terms of funding opportunities. But again, the key is oftentimes it takes multiple and creative funding solutions for these types of facilities. So some examples, and these are on the public-private partnership side of things. We have plenty of examples either way, but this is Cedar Point Sports Center in Sandusky, Ohio. It's a 180,000 square foot indoor court-based venue. It was a $42 million development. You can see 60% of that funding came from tax incentive from the county and the city. There's a medical sector partner there for both lease space as well as an equity partner, and then $6 million of private equity. We do 17,000 room nights and $20 million in impact through that facility. But this is a privately developed facility. The reason that private industry is interested in these types of facilities is not the revenue that they can drive in the facility itself, but the ability to capitalize on the spend that comes to your community through other businesses like hotels, restaurants, retail. The owner of this facility owns an amusement park down the street. They built this facility to drive more people to their amusement park in their main revenue sources. So as you think about public-private partnership, that's the number one reason we see the private sector get involved in these facilities, is for the economic benefit to their ancillary businesses that are around facilities. So I won't spend too much time on this. Another example in Kansas, this is a facility that's being funded through a sales tax rebate program that allows the development to keep sales tax that would normally go to the state to the development to fund the sports facility, which acts as the engine for commercial development. Similar setup here in Illinois, indoor and outdoor facility. You can see the number of fields there, 12 fields to drive economic impact, indoor facility along the lines of the other ones. Again, this is a special district that's going to fund the sports facility. So as you think about creative ways that the private sector could play a role, these are how we see that happening around the country. And so from a next steps perspective, as I mentioned, we've completed step one in that concept to concrete and market feasibility. We believe there's next steps related to exploring how you can enhance the community center and arena. We don't think it's right for a sporting venue, for a traditional basketball, volleyball, indoor sport event type facility, but there's opportunity to study that for other uses, equestrian, ag, livestock, et cetera. Identifying, obviously, your desired facilities. What do you think fits into your community based on our recommendations and those potential funding sources? Talking and having potential partnership conversations, public entities, schools, universities, city, private and medical sector are the ones that we see the most. And then any asset that as a community say, hey, we think this could be an opportunity for us, we would recommend completing a financial forecast and economic impact analysis so you know exactly how much it's going to cost to operate, how much revenue you can drive, how much heads and beds, and how much spending will be brought to your community. And then obviously visually it will be important to create updated layouts and design for potential new facilities you move forward with. So thanks for letting me talk through that again. A lot of information. Hope I covered it all, and happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Dan. Do you have any questions?
Very thorough.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information.
It is.
It was really
It's definitely a lot to digest, and our objective is over the course of the next several months to continue conversations with you, through a combination of our one-on-one settings and otherwise, just to try and start to put feelers out there to figure out, okay, what makes sense for our community. We're already sort of beginning to get some questions, such as location, right? So the number one question that we got through this process is around the community center. But the reality is that the city already invested in the 12 fields that are out there, and so whether the city realized it or not, when it made the decision to place that complex out there, was a decision to keep these type of amenities out there, because it would obviously be cost prohibitive to rebuild those 12 fields elsewhere. And so, but there are other things that could, look at shifting around and whatnot. It was mentioned, the recommendation to explore the community center a little further. And so expect to have a conversation at our next meeting around a very specific master plan for the community center that could help look at how else can we leverage and improve the community center for some of the other uses that were mentioned. And so that'll be a separate, sort of very specific process there. And then that could be part of the overall discussion, around facilities.
I noticed that, some of the facilities, obviously were adult facilities, and some of them were youth facilities. In terms of sports tourism, what are you guys seeing? What's a bigger driver right now? Are more people traveling for adult sports or youth sports?
Youth sports,
Gotta be,
in a big way. Where we see that changing a little bit is pickleball, as I'm sure everyone's hearing about. That's more adult driven. But in a facility like this, we would see all those facilities serving across the populations, but most travel for tournaments is going to be youth generated.
We can put pickleball inside the community center.
That's right.
Within that youth sports, what are the most popular right now in terms of what people are traveling
Yeah.
for?
Baseball still leads the charge just in terms of the sheer number of events. It used to be that in a baseball season, you'd play, 15, 20 games. Kids are playing 70 to 80 games now, and they're traveling every weekend for tournaments. And so baseball is still probably number one in terms of the volume of tournaments. What we see in softball is that's really growing in a fast way, right? More facilities are focused on women's sports, and there's more travel, so that's growing. And then on the multipurpose side, what we tend to see is soccer is huge, right? Those events tend to be really big and less frequent, right? And so you've got more one-off weekends where you're 3 or 4 days and you're driving a ton of people. You're doing that 10 times a year, where a baseball facility is going to do 30 events, right? But they're going to be smaller and more frequent. So those three sports are still top, but you're seeing lacrosse grow. Football actually has transitioned from traditional tackle football, where you're really traveling through school sports, to now facilities like Panama City Beach that we run with these types of fields. They host 20 flag football events a year where people are actually traveling for football. So that's also something that's growing as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. Appreciate you being here. Safe travels back home.
Thank you.
And we'll go into what would have been the first one. Mr. Leasack with the landfill and Gardenville rate increase update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just real quick, want to touch on some things. I included waste management in here. I know it was approved at the last meeting, but Ms. Elise asked me if I would just do a quick slide to show the difference in the rate.
And she's not even here.
And she's not even here. All right, I'm done. So Republic Services, they operate our landfill. Just a reminder that we own the landfill, they operate it. And so their increase actually could have been the biggest increase that we would have received. It was pushing 12%. However, in our contract that we have with Republic, it states that they cannot exceed 8% in a 2-year period. So last year they did 4%, which allows them only to do 4% this year. Why is that important? It's really important to keep our rates so that we stay competitive with the landfills around us. They have a lot of unique things that go into an actual rate increase, but we were very smart, and I can't take the credit for that, Gilbert and Jerry James, when they put that contract together and putting that cap in there. Yes, I gave you credit for something. So the per ton rate is going to go to $34.50. That's with the current increase. It was $33.17. So it's not a large increase, but it is going to go up. And so that's important because it leads into, also affects waste management's increase. Gardenville, this contract, if I'll remind council, was really painful for me to do last year. It was up over the 12% mark, pushing 13%. We're starting to see things normalize, which I talked about last year. We thought this was kind of maybe a one-time thing with the way things were going with coming out of the pandemic and other things. So we're at a 1.24% rate increase. Of course, you have a city rate that we charge ourselves. Even though we own the facility, Gardenville runs it, we still pay disposal ourselves. A lot of people are under the misconception we do that for free. We do not. We pay. Now, we pay at a cheaper rate because it's our facility, but we do pay. And so we're looking at a 1.24% rate increase there. On the biosolids that come from our compost facility, you're looking at a 49-cent rate increase. For our brush, you're looking at 50 cents because we do exceed the 9,000 tons. And last, I'll talk about waste management. It's kind of hard to explain how they do their increases, but we have a 60-40 split. 60 is their M&O, which is their fuel, personnel, trucks, vehicles, all that stuff. 40% is a direct pass-through from the landfill. So that 4% that the landfill increased affects 40% of their rate. So currently, if you have a 6-yard going once a week, it's $146.14 a month. With the new increase, that 6-yard will go to $149.32 a month, or an increase of about 3.18 or $3.18. And so with that, waste management's increase was 3.62%. So I'll answer any questions. All right, thank you, Council.
Pretty straightforward. Thank you, Mr. Lisek. The final one is Mr. Gilbert Renia, Water Meter Replacement Program. I'm anxious to see how this pat on the back is going to go back to Mr. Lisek.
You were thinking the same way I was. Thanks, buddy. I know I heard him say that, but it's okay. How y'all doing tonight? Y'all got executive session, but anyway, but nice to be here. Great weather. Here to talk about the AMR, automatic reader system replacement. So it should not take that long. Ken's going to help me through this process too. So real quick, for the public purposes and everything, AMR. It's a technology automatic to collect data, diagnostic and everything else, and it's transmitted to our utility billing offices. And from there, with troubleshoot, we analyze the data, and we also do the billing from that. And just quick, you want to hit it for me? Ken Gill did an awesome video.
All right, we've been talking about AMI meters, but today I want to show you exactly what one of our meters and meter boxes looks like.
Okay.
Stopped.
Ready?
All right.
You're gonna have to restart it.
Yeah, you got to start this. He has it.
Here's your standard meter box, and
Okay.
Oh, I was kidding.
all right, we've been talking about AMI meters, but today I want to show you exactly what one of our meters and meter boxes looks like. Here's your standard meter box, and on top of your meter lid, you'll see the antenna that goes to the meter. And this is all the AMI that we've been talking about. And underneath that antenna is the battery that sends that signal to our 3 antennas. And down here you'll see the antenna and the battery connected to the electronic meter. And basically that's it. And when we want to go change out, we can change out either this portion, which is the MXU, which includes the antenna and the battery, and you simply unclick it from the meter, unscrew this, take it out, put another one on. And the other situation is we replace this and the meter. But that's fairly simple, and that's what our meters look like in town. This is the property owner side meter, a cutoff that's in the meter box right at here, and then that's coming from our water main.
Thanks, Cal. The reason I want to show it, because a lot of people wonder what it looks like. So basically for tonight, I'll say 10, 15 minutes. Hello? I can hear myself now. Talk about the background, how this all system started, talk about the 23 program we're doing right now, and what are our goals moving forward. Okay. We started implementing this program back in 2013. Back then, we had approximately 22,000 units to install. And keep in mind, this was done at one whole time, because before that, everything was manual operated, okay? So I'll get more into that in a minute. We established 2 base stations. We financed that whole project over a 10-year with bonds. There was no rate increases. It was paid with the extra generated revenues from the system, because when you have a lot of human touch and reading, there's a lot of errors. So there's a lot of increase in revenue due to the automated system. In addition to that, we have cost reduction mainly in staffing and some little M&O. And as you're aware, it was operated basically as a reading system into the billing until we realized that in 2021, when we had the winter event, we kind of learned from our mistake and we moved forward from there. Since then, there's a lot of trainings going on. We're more astute towards the type of modules it has. We know the maintenance operation of it, the reports. We know it has a GIS mapping now, which has been great back then if we knew it. It has a diagnostic. It has a notice alert report, a battery report. So there's a lot of information there that was available to us that we know moving forward. And of course, we have this training. They're going this year again, and how to operate the system. Has been huge momentum forward, which I compliment them on. We also took the situation a little further. We want to evaluate the equipment back then. Are we purchasing the right type of meters? Should we buy a larger one, automatic system where it cuts off everything? It was kind of cost prohibitive, so we went through that process. We also look at our maintenance of it. What are some of the enhancements we can do, some cross-training? What else do we do, Ken? I can't remember. Oh, that was a big deal. Hey, no, you jumped over there. No. But next move, we went into an emergency planning system, because we didn't have a plan before that. It was like, we didn't know. So we made it a priority to establish a plan in place to make sure if an event like this happened, be it a freeze, hurricane, whatever, we have something in place in order to carry through the process and what needs to be done, since we have all this data now available to us. In addition to that, like Ken was mentioned, PIO did a great job in establishing the WaterWise program. There was a huge increase in our volume of our usage on that, what do you call that system program, where everybody can go look and see their usage and also make payments and everything. Huge improvements. PIO did a good job on that. We also did a propagation study, where we're going to take a look at our antennas, making sure, are we receiving the data, or are we collecting what we need to collect? Are they working right? And we found out that 2 of them were not working correctly. So we replaced 2 antennas back then. We also added a 3rd antenna at Waterwell, at the tower number 1, didn't we? So all that was done after Uri. So there was a lot of huge improvement there. Well, now we want to start the replacement program, okay? We have right now 23.5 units out there. The average life of these deals, I have not finished. Thank you very much. I have not finished. Put it back. Thank you very much. Let go, I get it. Hito. Okay. Thank you, sir. Wait for the cue. Average life runs from 15 to 20 years. However, I'll give you this. That's true past the 15 years, but we have to have a good maintenance program in place, not reactive. We got to be more proactive, and we have been talking about it, and we have plans for that. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Most of the failures, of course, is transmission, flow registration, measuring, and of course, the battery. Right now, well, let me rephrase that. The numbers you're gonna see now is about 2 or 3 months, about 2 months old. They're a little better now. I'll tell you why in a minute. But right now, we have about, let's say, 2,347 no reads after 3 days. What that means is that we have not received a reading from that unit for 3 days, which results in us sending personnel out there to start collecting that. We're back to the old system again. So now can you click it? And majority of this, you can see the blue dots, and I apologize, I couldn't get a better shot at this, but majority are from the north of Houston Highway and east from Coral Highway. That's the majority of the priority right now. We got some on the south side of it, but not that bad. So go back, please. You can hit anything. Hit the screen. No. Okay, don't worry, I'll get back again. Now, in 23, this past fiscal year, in June 2023, we came to you, we had a service contract with $649,000 to do 1,700. Don't flip it, just leave it alone. 1,700, most of those going to be taken care of on the north of Coral Highway, east of Coral Highways and north of Houston Highway. We want to take care of that whole area as a priority. It'd be nice eventually to get to a point we can do this subdivision, everybody knows we're gonna get hit and then move on. But right now, since this is kind of scattered and we're trying to get this program in place, it's gonna take some time to get this thing moving right in 2 or 3 years, maybe about 4 or 5 years. Then you can have that cycle that you can start replacement in sections. The timeline for this should have taken about 3 months. You see 6 months up there. We're having some issues right now. The vendors cannot get all their supplies in. We have some market issues right there. We also have the same situation, but now it's going to take about 6 months. In the meantime, we've been working with Public Information Department to get the message out. I believe they sent one out today or yesterday to inform the public that we're planning to address this coming up in a couple of months or next week or so, whenever they're ready to go. But the individual houses will be contacted directly to make sure we'll limit that exposure of not having that water available to them. So they'll be contacted directly, not hangers or something before the work is done. In the meantime, we're not sitting just with our hands crossed or hands. Ken and I sat down, how can we enhance this right now to get out there? So he came out with a brilliant idea. I want him to talk about it, give me a lot of kudos and let him talk about it.
What we did at first is we contacted the vendor, Aquametrics, and said, hey, what's going on with some of the no reads? They were able to diagnose 300 immediately that were no reads due to battery failures. So immediately they sent us about 215 meters, or still about 85 short. We went ahead and replaced those 300 with our crews, worked evenings, after hours, worked weekends. A lot of work with UBO staff too, because you can't just change a battery. You got to change the battery, but you got to go into that UBO report, which is time consuming, but everybody worked together. That lowered that 2347 a little bit. The next thing we're doing is, of those 1,700, is we're going out and physically with our crews, both UBO staff and our utility meter staff, physically open that meter box, look at it, write a quick note, what is wrong? Is it the antenna broken off? Is it the wire cut? Is it the battery off? Because they'll check and see if the battery is actually got no response. But we're doing that right now before we just jump in and say, replace all the meters. We want to focus on exactly what is the problem. That's really it.
Thank you. In a nutshell, what we're doing here is try and go down from a, yes.
A quick question. So when you say, because this is fascinating, but so when you say replace all the meters, I'm hearing you talk about the batteries and the parts of the transmitter. So when you say replace all the meter, are you talking about everything that we saw you pulling apart, or just the mechanics?
Okay, the MXU part is one functional part of it, and that's a big part. That's the thing that's given us the no reads. There is times when that top part of the meter is not reading, is not working. We can diagnose those. That's when we open up that meter box and that the antenna's broken, laying down, upside down, or the meter top is broken off. So we're looking at that to determine, we need to change, the meter and the MXU or just the MXU. That's our job, is to go look at them.
Thank you.
So basically, it's that when we call it one unit, this guy is I'm talking about the whole unit itself. The advantage of this, having somebody go out there and just hotshot it real quick and narrow down, maybe it's just a battery. Guess what? That's off the list. Something else goes on the list that maybe the whole thing needs to be replaced. That's the diagnosis that we're doing right now, so we still continue to do the 1700. Now, there's a good chance, that's a good question, Ms. Scott, is that the 1700 includes a turnkey for that unit completely. So, not every one might have a battery issue. It might just be a transmitter issue. So that, by them doing that, it's going to narrow down to those that really needs replacement. So that's a good positive thing. Well, bottom line, the goal of this is that by doing this right now, and hopefully even next month, I hope, we get this service contract going. I expect this to, right now it has dropped, so I expect to continue with the service contract, when the in-house augment we're doing right now, we're going to hopefully be down to 1% instead of being at 10%. With the 1700, assume that's going to be completed. Questions? Moving forward, the whole goal of the program is that we do want to do 2,000 units a year. Okay? Now, I'd like to continue with the service contract because, as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, that it's going to take a while before we catch up, because we put all these units at one time. So we got to create a cycle. So eventually, maybe in 4 or 5 years, we got that cycle implemented, then we, excuse me, we can back off from the service contract, and at the same time, while we have a more augmented in-house positive proactive maintenance program, which we're going to talk about, is that will kick in, and then hopefully we have a whole system in play that should be running smoothly moving forward. Now, with that also, we're going to do the in-house in 2024. Right now, we got $160,000. He's right now currently out there trying to procure more meters as well and some batteries. We got all the POs out there, but hopefully having it out there doesn't mean we're going to get them yet. In the meantime, we will continue enhancing the current operation from the maintenance side. We have what I call the meter techs, which is in UBO, and Public Works, and the readers, meter readers, and utility office. What we like to see, hopefully down this coming, is streamline that. We got one set of units. So either one, when they tackle a meter, they can do anything to it. At that, you go read that thing, it's not working, go ahead and replace it. If you can replace it, you just move on. So you got one shop and move on. That's the ultimate goal where I like to be at. Where instead of having 2 separate departments, you got one doing a turnkey and cross-training all across the place. Does that make sense? That's what I like to see, and we've been talking about that. That's what we plan to do come year. Excuse me, I got marketing. Ashley's doing an outstanding job. We're going to continue doing enhancing that marketing. We're still going to notify the customer whenever we have to replace. And again, we want to listen. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Customers' water disruption. And finally, we like to maintain at least a 1% manageable level that's no read at all. To me, there's no way, I could be totally wrong, you can have 0 no reads. That's not going to happen. I've never seen that. But at least 1%, you're looking at about 230-some thousand units. So that's very feasible. That's excellent. We can get to that point. Other than that, Ken, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but that's all we have, folks. And thank you for tonight.
So when we have a no-read situation, a 3-day no-read, and you got to go out there and manually take the numbers down,
We read it.
can I
Take it
just
back in.
diagnose right then what's wrong with it and repair it? If
that's-
it's a
that-
battery,
that-
have a battery on the truck and.
Excellent. That's what we're trying to achieve right there. Right now, we got to get the billing out. So if we can go out there and do the same thing right there on the spot, and a lot of these readers don't have all the equipment, and that's one thing we need to equip those trucks with everything at one time and do it. And that's the ultimate challenge.
Instead of
trying to
making
get to
2
that point.
trips.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in time, right? Because you have so many that aren't reading, so they got to get in, read it, go to the next one and read it, et cetera. So
And we have,
if you decrease that number, it helps make it easier to do what you suggest.
exactly. Right now, we're trying to put out little fires here and there. But that's the go. Absolutely.
I have a question. So you get there and the meter's damaged, i.e. by a lawnmower. I know that they're probably pretty durable and that's not likely, but who's responsible for the damage? In other
It'd be
words,
us.
monetarily?
We typically take care of those. And what we're trying to do also is our new meters. If you notice how that antenna was
flat.
sitting above, we're putting a new meter box and a lid where that antenna is now recessed. So you don't trip over it, you don't kick it, you don't knock it off. And we're changing those things as we're moving forward. All the new subdivisions has a recessed box.
Recess. Cool.
I have a question. Okay, you don't get a reading off of this water meter, and you go out and it needs the battery replaced. If you put the battery in it, does it update the reading? Or do you have to-
That's where utility billing has to, Michelle explained it, but it's kind of tricky. You have to go get the battery, replace it, then you have to go into the utility billing system, tell that tell it it's got a new battery in the system. Then you got to take the old battery out in another part, put that new battery back into the address so it'll pick it back up. So that's where utility billing comes in. They have to do that manually for every battery change out. It's not
It
simply as
automatically
changing.
updates the reading?
Yes, it will pick it up the reading
Bottom
then.
line, there's a cycle has to go through, you gotta do it manually on the computer side. That's what we mean by
Yes.
manually. You still gotta go in the system, tell them, we just replace this, get back to the old data and start back up again.
So if it did just happen to be at the end of a billing cycle, that customer might get a low bill, and then the next month, because it would update it, they might get a bigger bill.
If, for some reason, like, we get out there and I know there's times we go out there and do the reading. Before we change the battery, take whatever it shuts off. Okay, so, okay, that's the last reading, we use that. And then once we do this cycle and everything else, eventually probably catch up in the following bill.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Are we still in a stage 3 water drought?
Yes, sir, we are. The river is still very low and ordered some additional water from Canyon Lake. Canyon Lake went into stage 2, which is rare for them. They're up, that's getting low, but I've looked at the rain models and it's expecting some good rains this week coming forward, but we're in good shape as far as what's in our OCRs and what we're getting out of the river.
Thank you all. All right, Mr. Garza, that's the end of your city manager reports. Did you have anything else to add before we recess into executive session?
No, sir.
All right. Then it is 6:47 PM. At this time, we will recess into executive session. Give us about 5 minutes. Take a quick break. Let the room clear. Ms. Hilbert.
The City Council will recess for executive session on the 17th day of October 2023 at 6:47 PM. Subject matter of the executive session deliberation is as follows. Texas Government Code 551.087, 551.071, and 551.072.